Hello, everyone. Welcome to What Happens After High School: Alternative Pathways, Creative Planning, and New Opportunities. This is a presentation from the Cope Center for Autism, located in Ridgewood, New Jersey. At the Cope Center for Autism, our mission is to be a champion for children with autism by providing prompt medical evaluation, equipping families with knowledge and resources, and fostering an inclusive and accepting community. We envision a future where all children with autism have access to comprehensive individual supports that empower them to thrive as their true selves. Hi, everyone. I'm Laura McKenna. I am the Director of Parent Education and Outreach at the Cope Center for Autism. I have 3 decades of experience in education and policy. I started off as a special ed teacher in the South Bronx. Later, I earned a PhD and became a professor in political science, specializing in education policy. I've been a writer and a researcher and an advocate for children with autism. My articles about autism and education and higher education have appeared in the top magazines in the country. And not surprisingly, I'm also an autism mom. So today's topic is what happens after high school. Specifically, what happens if your child isn't ready for college or work? Most most other families, they may know what to do right away. If you have a typical child, you go from high school to college. There's a path, there's a well-trod path for what to do after high school. There's a whole staff at every high school aimed at helping those children flourish after high school. For our kids, it's a little more difficult. And the first step is to have a new mindset, to realize that we're going to have to do things a little differently from everybody else. And the first step is to get educated. And that's why you're all here today, is to learn more about what their opportunities are. What are your options? And then make choices based on your child's interests, talents, deficits. You have to take all of that into consideration and see where your child is going to fit best. And you also have to get to know your child well, not just based on what the report card might say. You have to be honest about what their abilities are and maybe get even outside testing so that you know what he or she is prepared for after high school. It's important to think creatively. Our kids are different, so we must create unique plans. We are going to have to piece together things. We're going to have to do our research. It is not going to be the same path as everybody else, but that's okay. It's okay. There's some great ideas, there's some great options out there. We have to think strategically. So, creatively and strategically, we have to think about the long term, not just what's going to happen at 1920, but where do we see our children down the road? What are the long-term goals for them? Is it to be completely independent, to live alone, to have a job, or is it to be in a more supportive setting? We may have to stack different programs. Instead of college life, we might go high school, transition program, community college, regular college. We're going to talk about all of that tonight, all what your options are, but they may be more than just high school, college. It may be several steps in there. We should always, as we're making these plans, come up with two plans. We come up with a best case scenario and a worst case. That way, we're prepared for both because we don't know what's going to happen. Our kids are going to surprise us, and it's good to have two plans. And that way, you're prepared for either option. And it's also important to start early on this process. And full disclosure, I didn't myself start early because my son got to senior year of high school, and then I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So part of what I'm telling you today is what I wish I had known. So if we can start early, that's awesome. If you can't, you can recover. But research planning and chunking up some of these big jobs is going to make your life a lot easier. Okay. So we're going to talk about in this presentation all the different pathways. I'm giving a broad overview of everything from the most challenging to the most supportive. It's not going to be every slide on this presentation may not be right for your child. You're going to listen to everything and pick things through. And there may be some things that where you might not be right for your child today, but could be right for them in a few years. My job today is to give the broad overview, and in the future, I've got other presentations that will drill down into the more specifics. Okay, there are options for college. I'm going to talk about the different types of colleges in this presentation. And I'm going to talk about employment opportunities. We're going to talk about something called transition programs and government supports. Okay, the first, we're going to go straight to the most challenging options. Traditional colleges. There are three different ways to get further education after high school. There are four-year colleges. There's community colleges where you can earn either associate's degree or certificate program, and there are trade schools. We're going to discuss all of those options here. Remember, the most important thing, I'm going to keep drilling it in because parents get very confused, is that there are no IEPs once you graduate from high school. IDEA, which protects our kids, which we've gotten so used to, ends when high school ends. And afterwards, individuals with autism are protected by the Americans with Disability Act, which is far less supportive than IEPs. So we have to work with that reality. So in college, there's no IEPs, there's no parental involvement. Most colleges, even community colleges, require testing to get in, and there can be no aides in the classrooms. So if your child can thrive in that sort of environment, then college is a great option. Uh, the basic supports that you can get at a college, at a four-year and a two-year college, are accommodations that are gained through the Office of Disability Services. Every college has this special office where you can get extra help, but slightly different names from college to college, but in general, it's something like Office of Disability Services. The primary accommodation that they offer students are extra time on tests and a quiet room. The way you get these accommodations is you have to apply for them, sometimes even 6 months before you start school. You have to provide documentation showing that there is a disability. Autism would qualify, but they also provide support for students with ADHD, executive function problems, even social emotional issues like anxiety and depression. The advantages of of going to this department, you're going to have to jump through some hoops, no question about it. The student will have to advocate for themselves to get the support. Parents cannot get involved at this point. So the student has to go to this Office of Disability Service or write them an email, then provide documentation proving the disability. Could be an IEP, preferably there was some testing done in high school that they can present to the school. Um, and then there will be an interview by staff to make sure that the student can handle the pressures of college. And when that's done, the student will get issued a letter, an email called a letter of accommodations. And it will be up to the student to then distribute this email, this letter to all of their professors, explaining that they need extra time on tests and tests need to happen in the quiet room. This this level of support is fine for many kids with autism. Um, that's maybe all they need. It's nice because it provides the professor with a little warning. Okay, this is a student with a little extra need. They won't know. The letter of accommodation won't explain that they have autism, and professors have no training in any disability or even education. So, but it provides a little extra help. The Downside with these programs is that it's actually hard to get these services. There's paperwork and interviews. So students who have difficulty with executive function, this could trip them up. Um, there is no specialized help for autism typically in these programs. And, are these departments the most well-funded on campus? No, but they're still nice, warm, fuzzy places. Informally, there may be some more supports. It might be a place where the student can go and say, "Help, I'm overwhelmed," and they can step in. Um, Community colleges. In our upper middle class communities, we often forget about them, but they are excellent places for students who are neurodivergent. In fact, approximately 80% of neurodivergent college students start their higher education at community college. It is a great way to learn about college. I often call community colleges our opportunities next door. They are relatively inexpensive and local, so for students who are afraid about living abroad in a dorm, it just lowers the stress level. The campus itself is more relaxed than a four-year college. It's very flexible. There's a lot of online offerings. I think that even one online class, that's how I help my son, who's 23, who's now in a four-year college, learn about college. We did one online class, and then he could learn what a syllabus is and what the expectations of college was. It was a great training wheels for higher education. As I said, 80% of students who are neurodivergent started at community college. So if you walk through the campus, you're going to see a lot of quirky people. So, the autistic student can feel at home there. There are two types of degrees. You can get a certificate or associate's degree. An associate degree is a two-year degree that in many states can be transferred over to a four-year state college and have all the credits accepted. A certificate has even fewer requirements than associate's degrees, and there's many options. Many of them are very tailored to particular careers, pet grooming, even house cleaning. They have certificates in them. You can take a few classes. Typically, the academic expectations are much lower. They are more aimed at providing a concrete vocational skill. The downsides with any community college is that the faculty is often temporary and there isn't the same sort of support from faculty for particular students because they're going and coming and going pretty frequently. There are fewer academic majors at a community college. So if your child's academic interests are very specific, 18th century map making, they're going to have a hard time finding that at a community college. There are fewer social opportunities because most of the campus is going to be older, maybe married and have a job. They're going to be coming and going. There are more clubs on a community college campus than there used to be, but it's not the same experience that you may have experienced at a four-year college. There is also no dorm experience. So that may is something that should be considered. We're going to briefly discuss some of the alternatives now. So we've discussed college, community college, but there are even more options than ever before, which is awesome. It's actually a really great time for the autistic student in college because there's just so much to think about. There are academic programs within traditional colleges. So, I mean, not every four-year college has this. There's a handful of them in our area, right here in northern New Jersey, where I am. There is a program at Ramapo College and Fairleigh Dickinson College. Both of them are small programs aimed at helping the student with autism who has an academic background, who can thrive in typical four-year college class, but need more support for socializing, for example, or may need some executive function support. So there are these programs scattered around the country right now. RIT has a great program, so does Drexel. It's a great way for the student who's got those, splinter skills, not splinter skills, but strengths, academic strengths, but social skills weaknesses. It these programs should definitely be on your radar if that's your child's profile. The downsides of these programs is that they're expensive. On top of like crazy tuition costs, you'll pay an extra $10,000 for these services. There are colleges now for students, college programs within typical four-year colleges just for students with intellectual disabilities. So an IQ of 60 to 90. The profile of these students are probably had been in self-contained classes in high school or specialized learning environments, not on grade level or even close to it for the academic subjects, but very social and happy to blend with others in a classroom and in a dorm. Some of these programs are very specific about what kinds of kids with autism they want to fit in there. These have to be kids, autistic kids whose social skills are actually not so bad. They can blend well with kids with intellectual disabilities and not there's no conflict. Here in New Jersey, we have a great program at the College of New Jersey. Uh, the students in these programs do not take the typical college classes. They take their own modified classes that are very specific to their needs, such as how to manage money, how to improve social skills, how to navigate a college campus. All of those would be the type of classes that they offer, or maybe functional math, functional reading. And these programs try to help the kids get jobs on campus so they can feel like they are part of the whole system. They might have a job in the library or in the bookstore. There are special colleges for autism and other disabilities. There is Landmark College in Vermont and Beacon College of Florida. These are examples. They really are. My son attends Landmark College in Vermont. At these colleges, they have trained staff. The professors have been trained in autism. That happens nowhere else in the country. Okay. These are professors who get it. There's small class size. There are sensory rooms on campus, lots of support for the students, tutoring centers, built-in social activities. It's fun. Uh, it's fun and it's the right place for many kids with autism who can't blend in easily in a typical college. The downsides of this is that you're going to have not the same social experience for very social kids. They may not feel at home at these schools because on Saturday nights everybody's playing Minecraft. Then there is another option called 18 to 21 programs or transition programs. These are offered both in public schools and private schools. In public schools, according to IDEA, they have to educate kids till 21 provided they have a certain profile. IEP, not ready for the next step, not ready for high school and college. So the idea of these programs is that it takes kids who are not ready for prime time and helps to increase their skills, increase their functional academics, give them exposure to internships, and work on social skills. The advantage for the parents is that these kids still retain all their rights uh, from IDEA. They still have IEPs, they still have goals, they still have related services. Once public school ends, those rights are over. Okay. So really keep in mind that leaving public school, walking away from a transition program is, don't do it easily. Consider it. Okay. So there's these programs of public schools, they're expanding. There's more options than ever before. And there's some really wonderful options at private schools. There's a programs called the College Internship Program up in Lenox, Massachusetts, and in various other locations around the country. There's the College Living Experience. All of these programs really help students who get to the next level, whatever it might be. Might be college or internships. So many of these programs also will walk the kids through college and help them get ready for hopefully going to community college on their own in the future. One wonderful program is the Riverview School in Cape Cod. It looks like it looks like a fancy private school. If you go to their website, they've got this drone view of the campus. It's just gorgeous. And it's on Cape Cod, and they get that experience of continued support, the option to work or go to college and improve their skills in both. And the kids get a dorm experience. They live independently. And that's a great experience for many of our kids. There are summer school offerings now. There are more and more about how to that help train kids to get ready for college. This can happen even in high school. Landmark has several summer programs that are all about teaching students how to be independent. Maybe for many kids, this may be their first chance to ever go away because they haven't had that camp experience. So that's nice. From there, they can learn specialized jargon in terms like what is a bursar's office? What is a syllabus? Our kids, our high school kids, our typical high school kids have trouble with that transition. You add in autism with, maybe some language difficulties, and just even that jargon can throw off a lot of kids. So I like these summer programs. Employment. This is also an option. There are many kids who are like, I'm tired of school. I don't want to go to school. Just get me a job. That's what I want to do. So there are several ways to do that and to get job training. Community colleges, as we discussed, have very many vocational majors and certificates, low cost, local, love it. Every state has something, called somewhat different, and the money comes from the federal government to the states. So they all have something called the Vocational Rehabilitation Department, slightly different names, but so in New Jersey, we have the DVRS. And what they do is they provide coaches to help students on a entry-level jobs. They can help with resume writing. They can help pay for job training. They can help pay for college. So definitely worth a phone call, easy paperwork to get on board with that. There are private technical schools. Now, in the past, I would have said don't even look at those schools because there is no support for anybody with a disability, but or disability like autism. There are plenty of kids with ADHD there, but they don't have the tradition of helping the kids with the poor social skills or the autistic profile. That's changing. So I was talking with a recruiter from Eastwood College, which is our local technical college. And I'm saying, do you have a place for our kids with autism there? And he said, look, we've got a major in cybersecurity, a 2-year program. Half the class is somewhere on the autistic spectrum. We love kids with Asperger's. They can thrive here. So while it may not on the books say that an autistic child, that they have supports for autistic kids, there may be informally all sorts of ways that it can work out. And these 18 to 21's transition programs also provide job training. So it's also possible to do all 4 of these different options at different times. So yet another route that we may need to pursue for our children is getting them funding and support from the government. The disability system may be a part of your child's profile. And you may be able to have these funds while your child goes to college. Okay. So as part of I said best case, worst case scenario, she would always be figured out. My worst case scenario was that my child would never be able to be employed, never go to college, and need something to do with the day. And I would need to hire people to help him. So my best case was that he was going to go to college. So I prepared for both, and it's worked out for us because he's getting both kinds of help right now. So if you feel like your child may need that sort of plan B sort of help, how do you go about it? Your first step is to apply for SSI. There are three requirements to receive supplemental security income. It is for adults who are 18 years and older. They must have less than $2,000 in savings, have a documented disability, have some doctor's note, not you're just, oh, he's not doing so great. You need to have a diagnosis with explanation of why this your young person is incapable of work. And specifically, it will interfere with something called substantial gainful activity. Now, big words, I'm going to explain it. And if once you get through all these hoops, it amounts to about $7,800 a year, not a huge amount of money, but it opens the doors to getting more state benefits. So this is always step one. Substantial gainful activity. What is that? Basically, you have to tell the state that your student is incapable of working a part-time job at McDonald's. Okay? Now, actually working a job at McDonald's takes a lot of skills. You have to be able to sit behind a counter and take people's orders for French fries and burgers. You have to be able to do it quickly. You have to be able to make change. You have to be able to respond to just random human craziness. So, one of the reasons why I thought my son would be incapable of working at McDonald's is that I try to imagine a situation where somebody comes up to the counter, orders 20 things, and goes, oops, I forgot my wallet. What would my son do? He would say, what are you, stupid? And he would get fired. What if his boss looked over his shoulder and said, oh, don't forget to push that button? My son would be like, I know, back off, dude. And he would be fired in a second. So there's a lot that goes into working a job at McDonald's. And for some of our kids, that's a lot. So if they are incapable of that sort of a job, then you will have to fill out some paperwork that asks you questions about your child's abilities. And for example, they might ask you about whether your child can eat breakfast on their own. Now, how do you fill out that? So when I was doing this form, I worked with a social worker and to give me some help. And she said, and I said, here's this question, can your son eat breakfast on your own? And I said, yeah, get himself some cereal. She said, yeah, Laura, let's think about this. Can he really eat breakfast on his own? Who buys the cereal? And I said, I do. She says, who sets up the cereal on the same shelf every day? Like I do that. Who puts the bowl in the sink or the dishwasher? That's me. She says, who buys the milk? And is the milk in the same place in the fridge every day? Do you buy the same particular brand of cereal that you know he'll eat every week? And I'm like, yeah. And she says, what happens if there was no cereal on the shelf one day? What would happen? Would he even eat breakfast? And I said, probably not. And she's like, okay, he can't eat breakfast on his own. So this is an example of how we fill out the paperwork. And, if you need more help with this, I do have a longer presentation. Next step, most states, once you jump through those hurdles, you automatically get Medicaid. It's pretty much automatic in most states, not every state. Some states, they have you go through another, jump over another hurdle, but really it will just be automatic. And Medicaid is important, not just because it's, health insurance. Many of us already have insurance through work and our kids are covered till 26 or even later if you explain that they have a disability. But Medicaid will pay for copays. It'll help with those sort of extra charges. The most important part about Medicaid is that it helps open the doors for the state services, which are much more substantial. We have 50 states, 50 different state plans. In New Jersey, the Department of Developmental Disabilities, DDD, governs our state policy, our state program. And this is where the more substantial funding comes from. It's it's substantial. It really opens the doors for a lot of different services that you'll receive in the future. It's funded by Medicaid. It's yet another application process. I can help with that at the Cope Center, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. It provides funding for therapy programs. And you fill out the paperwork using the same principles that I discussed before. Thinking, can my child work in McDonald's? What is my child like on their worst day? It takes a certain amount of time to get through this system. These funds then open up the doors towards other ways for our children, for the kids who really can't manage college or work and have gotten to, a certain age and they need more help. This funding can be used for day programs, a residential program for your young people with more significant needs, or it can be used to create a self-directed program, meaning the family creates a daily schedule for the young person. Maybe it starts off with an Uber ride to the YMCA, and then an Uber to meet a friend at the diner for lunch. Maybe there's a caretaker that comes in. It can provide funding for the family to organize these sorts of days. These are big jobs, no question about it. I've thrown a lot at you guys today, and the best way to take a big job is to chunk it. Now, I'm giving you guys a sample timeline. I'd love everybody to start thinking about this even as early as eighth grade, because in some states, some areas, they have vocational high schools that are awesome. And the application process for that starts in eighth grade. But really, at the earliest, most people should be starting as freshman year of high school. Just full disclosure, I didn't do that. My kid was 18, senior year of high school, and I was like, oh my God, what do I do? I had no idea. So again, it's not never too late to pick up this information, but in a perfect world, we we start thinking about this early. So in freshman year of high school, I would start to ask the high school to provide you with a full set of evaluations, education, psychological, speech and language, whatever's needed, behavioral maybe, so that you can make sure that the high school experience works on improving those goals. Really try to be super practical, redo the IEP at that point. Make sure that those goals are tightly targeted towards your child's needs in the future. Start to make some short-term and long-term goals. Where do you see your child? Is your child's interest with animals? Do they want to become a pet groomer, for example? How do we get there? What classes should he take in high school to help get him ready for that goal? If he's working for a pet service, he's going to still have to handle money. How are the math skills? Make sure that they're in good enough shape. Start creating goals in high school so that he can reach those goals. Start researching different certificate programs or internship opportunities that can happen in the future. Start thinking it through. You know, come up with a plan A and a plan B. Like I said, we did. It helped me cover my bases, make sure that I had thought through all of my opportunities, and make sure all of these ideas are in the transition plan in your IEP. Everybody's IEP has a transition plan. It is an often neglected section of the IEP with boilerplate words written in there. Work with your school. Make it make it mean something. Those middle 2 years of high school, you can still work on a lot of things. Wills, special needs trust guardianships. I'm not talking about that today. We do have a financial planner who will talk about many of those issues in November. So I suggest coming back to us for that. Make sure that there is no money in the bank account under your child's name. So remember that Social Security requirement, that $2,000 income limit. Make sure when they're 15 that any funds in their names are put somewhere else. Could be in a bank account in your name, just a special one that you put aside for them, but drain those assets 3 years before they start SSI. Keep reassessing the goals of the transition programs. Our kids are changing. Their interests are going to change. One year, they could be interested in pets. Another year, they might be interested in computers. So make it evolve. Make it mean something. Keep keep working those goals. Start getting some evaluations from your medical professionals. Do that when they're in year 17 so that when you start applying for SSI, you have all your doctor's evaluations saying autism, OCD, ADHD, whatever the issues are might be. I want to document it. I want a doctor's okay on it. I would, here's another controversial thing. I would avoid any paid internships during this time, just through until you get through that SSI gauntlet. SSI is the hardest part. Just, you want to show that they can't work. If there is evidence that they had a job, even if it's a supportive job, it could interfere with those applications. Senior year of high school. Now, for every kid and every family, it's crazy time applying. Typical kids are applying for college. There's a lot of events going on. We have our own kinds of events. We're going to start the SSI application. When they blow the candles on the cake at 18, you start filling out the forms. You might want to start touring different college programs or transition programs. You may have to help them study for the AccuPlace or SATs if that's part of their needs. You want to make sure that you have the school do a final set of evaluations if the plan is immediately to go to college and get the supports of the college, because you'll need those school evaluations for college in order to get that letter of accommodation. And again, just be careful about the paid employment. And then after high school, there's more things to do. Our kids have a longer ramp towards adulthood. Now, everybody gets there. Just our kids do it a little differently. Take a little more time. That's all right. So, from ages 19 to 20, now again, at this point, everybody's different. Some kids are going to be in college, some kids are going to be in transition programs, some kids are going to be starting to think about vocational opportunities. But here are some ideas, all right? You may be choosing a Medicaid program. You may be working on your DDD application, your state program. There's going to be work and training experience either through a program like DVRS or in a transition program. It's a good time to start learning about other support systems, ones I didn't even talk about tonight. And it might be a time where they're just thriving wherever they are. Could be college, could be transition program. When they turn 21, then then we've got a whole nother stage. It's the 21 to 30 stage. There is a lot going on then, and everybody's path is different. Some kids may immediately go to a day program. Others may be continuing to gain skills for work, gain skills in overcoming challenges, may be getting therapy. The family can start be working on ABLE accounts, which is another place for working kids to keep their money so they can retain their benefits. And hopefully our kids are, and we are helping them get to a place where they're employed, where they're independent, where they're happy. And however that looks, different kids are going to, everybody's going to have their own definition of happy. And we're going to be helping them reach that goal. So that's it for me tonight. I've given a very broad overview. I know it was a lot, but it was, I hope, some place for you guys to start with. Um, You can get help in many different ways, and we will be offering more webinars going forward. You can also reach me and the other parent education staff at the Cope Center. Our phone number is 551-380-4870. If you're in New Jersey, you can come in and schedule an in-person appointment, but we're also happy to help families wherever they may be through virtual visits. Okay, our website, www.copecenterforautism.org, has a lot more information. I hope you stay with us for more webinars. We have a whole bunch more planned. Some might be right for you, some may not be. I'm going to be doing a talk next week that's going to be for the families in New Jersey on navigating the state's support system, really drilling down more into this SSI and DDD. I'm going to be doing it from a parent's perspective and trying to lower the lingo, lower you know, the the bar for navigating a very difficult system. We also have 4 more webinars organized until February. We have ones for the younger families with information from BCBAs about how to help your child at home. We have on December 10th, Mike Greengell, a CPA, is going to be giving us information about preparing for your child financially. He's going to talk about ABLE accounts, about special needs trusts, and about funding special needs trusts using insurance. January 7th, Arlene Rubin, speech language, the pathologist, will be providing information on social skills. On February 11th, we have Judy Weinstock and Connie Sproul will be talking about understanding the students' rights to special education and really giving more information on the IEPs. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. I hope that this talk was informative, interesting, and you join us again. Again, you can get more information about me and the center at the Cope Center for Autism.org. Our phone number is 551-380-4870. My name is Laura McKenna, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. Have a good night.